Bayern Munich's 8-2 victory over Barcelona last week must go down as one of the greatest shocks in the history of the Champions League. Not in the sense that many people expected Barcelona to actually win the game, of course. Bayern were almost everyone's favourites, but just the scoreline, which was somewhat reminiscent of Germany's humiliation of Brazil at the 2014 World Cup. Since then, we've had another shock in many respects, with Lyon knocking out Manchester City, and given how thick and fast the games are coming right now, there may well have been another one by the time this video comes out. Anyhow, in light of Bayern Munich putting 8 past a hapless Barcelona, I thought I'd make a video taking a look at some of the most shocking results in the history of the Champions League/European Cup. I'm interested in results that would have seemed shocking pre-game, not mid-game, so Liverpool's comeback against AC Milan and Manchester United's injury time heroics against Bayern Munich won't feature, and nor will Bayern's thrashing of Barcelona, just given that we've already spoken about it and it is still fresh in everyone's minds. Here are 7 of the most shocking European Cup/Champions League results of all time. Dynamo Kyiv 2, Real Madrid 0, 1999. Back in the 1998-99 season, Real Madrid were the reigning European champions, managed by Guus Hiddink, with a squad that could boast the likes of Roberto Carlos, Clarence Seedorf, and Raul. Hiddink was actually sacked a week before the first leg of Real's quarter-final tie with Dynamo Kyiv, following 3 poor results and some public comments made about the Real Madrid board that seemingly weren't best appreciated. He was replaced by John Toshak, and Dynamo proved themselves with no pushovers in the first leg, drawing 1-1 with Los Blancos at the Bernabeu. Between the first and second leg, Real seemed to have got their house back in order though, winning both of their La Liga ties, and their quality twinned with their love of the European Cup was expected to see them through on a cold evening in Kiev. It wouldn't. Dynamo had an ace up their sleeve, young centre-forward Andrei Shevchenko, and having scored Dynamo's only goal in Madrid, he scored twice back in Ukraine, to which Real had no response. The goals elevated Shevchenko from national to international star, and the following summer, he joined AC Milan, where he won the Champions League in 2003. There would be no Champions League for Shevchenko or Dynamo in 1999, as they were narrowly beaten 4-3 on aggregate by Bayern Munich in the semi-finals. Celtic 2, Barcelona 1 in 2012. If Barcelona played Celtic now and defended like they did against Bayern Munich, you wouldn't bet against the Glasgow side getting a result against them. But the Barcelona side that Celtic faced in 2012 was a totally different animal to the one that we see now. Although Pep Guardiola had departed, Barca still absolutely walked their way to the La Liga title in the 2012-13 season under the late Tito Villanova, with a squad boasting the likes of Dani Alves, Andres Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, Piqué, Fabregas, David Villa, and of course Lionel Messi, all at, or at least very close to their peak. There was an aura of invincibility about this Barcelona side, but Neil Lennon wasn't just going to roll over to one of the finest football teams ever assembled at Celtic Park. A compact Celtic side featuring such legends as Georgios Samaras and Charlie Mulgrew could only keep possession 16.34% of the time, but that was all they needed, as goals from Victor Wanyama and Sanchez Watt turned Celtic Park quite literally into paradise from a Celtic perspective. Lionel Messi pulled 1 goal back, but it was too little too late, and Celtic advanced to the knockout stages of the Champions League, something which they have been unable to replicate in the 8 years since. The upset in Glasgow that night remains the lowest possession percentage a team has ever won a game with in a European competition on record, as Celtic went on to be thrashed by Juventus in the round of 16, whilst Barcelona would be battered by Bayern Munich in the semi-finals. AC Milan 4, Barcelona 0 in 1994. Whilst the AC Milan team from the late 80s through to the mid-90s was a spectacular one, it requires a little bit of context to fully appreciate how big of a shock the 1994 Champions League final really was. Under the guidance of Johan Cruyff, Barcelona had created what was coined the Dream Team, boasting the likes of Guardiola, Stoichkov, Koeman, Laudrup and Romario. Barca had just won their 4th consecutive La Liga title, and only AC Milan stood in the way of them winning their 2nd European Cup in just 3 years. AC Milan, on the other hand, whilst they were a brilliant team, went into the final as a complete shambles. They hadn't won any of their last 6 Serie A games, star centre-forward Marco Van Basten was injured, the world's most expensive footballer Gianluigi Lentini was also injured, and their 2 starring defenders Franco Baresi and Alessandro Costa-Curta were both suspended. Most people felt that Milan could be on the end of a hiding at the Olympic Stadium in Athens, but the pragmatism of Capello tore apart the idealism of Cruyff, as Barcelona were swept aside by the Italians. Right from the off, AC Milan looked rock solid defensively and a constant threat on the break. Barcelona only knew one way in which to play, and it wasn't working against Capello's men. Daniele Massaro scored twice, and Savicevic and Desai scored one apiece, as AC Milan ran Barcelona ragged, running out as 4-0 victors in perhaps the greatest European Cup or Champions League final upset of all time. Dynamo Tbilisi 3, Liverpool 0 in 1979. Football teams behind the Iron Curtain were always shrouded in mystery in Britain, leading to great excitement when a game against a team from the Soviet bloc was broadcast. Georgian outfit Dynamo Tbilisi were making their European Cup debut back in the 1979-80 campaign, and they couldn't have been handed a much tougher draw than a first-round tie against Liverpool, the champions of England, who had won the European Cup twice in the last 3 seasons. Under the stewardship of Bob Paisley, this was the Liverpool team of Hansen, Neil, Kennedy, Case, Souness and Dalglish at their scintillating best, but the efficiency of the men from Merseyside will be contrasted by the immense creativity from the side from Georgia. Tbilisi were a joy to watch, playing fast-paced, expressive football that left Liverpool chasing shadows at times. In the first leg, the Reds won 2-1 at Anfield, but they travelled to the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic knowing they would have a game on their hands. The Liverpool players didn't sleep a wink, as Dynamo fans kept them up outside their hotel room all night. In front of 90,000 fans at the Vladimir Lenin Stadium, Liverpool looked tired, whilst Dynamo popped passes around them, attacking in wave after wave. Over a period of around 15 years, this was one of the very few occasions in which Liverpool were genuinely outclassed, and the Georgian European Cup virgins ran out 3-0 victors, only to be beaten 6-3 by Hamburg in the next round. Deportivo La Coruña 4, AC Milan 0 in 2004. The top 3 in this 7 are all absolutely preposterous scorelines, starting with Deportivo La Coruña thrashing AC Milan 4-0 back in 2004. AC Milan had won the Champions League the previous season with a squad featuring superstars from 1 to 11, from Maldini, Nesta and Cafu at the back to Pirlo, Gattuso, Redondo and Seedorf in midfield. Following that success, Milan had added Brazilian midfielder Kaká to their ranks to support Andrei Shevchenko. They cruised to the Serie A title and looked to be well on their way to defending their European crown, following a 4-1 win against Deportivo La Coruña at the San Siro in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final. That meant journalists from across Europe looked towards the second leg at the Estadio Riazza as little more than a formality, but those who did pay a little attention would be treated to an unforgettable night of football in Galicia. In an end-to-end game, AC Milan had the chances to put the game to bed, but whilst they failed to convert, Deportivo made no such mistakes. Having taken the lead within the first 5 minutes, the La Liga side proceeded to score a further 3 goals whilst keeping the likes of Kaká and Shevchenko out, ensuring one of the greatest Champions League comebacks, upsets and shocks of all time. APOEL 4, Lyon 3 in 2012. Cyprus is an island of just 1.17 million people, so it should come as a little surprise that Cypriot teams have never dominated European competitions. In fact, for 20 years since Cypriot teams made their debut in the European Cup, they only recorded 2 wins, one against Irish side Waterford and the other against Red Boys Diffidonge from Luxembourg. By the 2011-12 season, 2 Cypriot teams had made the group stages of the Champions League, and APOEL Nicosia were doing so for just the second time. They caused a major upset by topping an admittedly kind group, but only kind by the standards of the Champions League. In the round of 16, APOEL drew Lyon, who most people expected to beat them comfortably. The Lyon squad was a good one, boasting the likes of Hugo Lloris, Samuel Umtiti, Johan Gurkov and Alexander Lacazette, and it was Lacazette who scored the only goal of the first leg as Lyon took a 1-goal lead to Nicosia. The second leg was played out in front of a packed-out crowd at the GSP Stadium, the largest ground in Cyprus, where Lyon were unable to score a vital away goal. APOEL took the lead after just 9 minutes through Brazilian wideman Gustavo Manduca, who was later sent off in extra time, but APOEL nonetheless won the game 4-3 on penalties. They were well beaten in the quarterfinals by Real Madrid, but it was a historic achievement for a Cypriot club, and the fact that APOEL were 1,000 to 1 to reach the quarterfinals prior to the first qualifying round tells you how big of a shock their run really was. CSKA Sofia 2, Ajax 0 in 1973. Back in the early 1970s, Ajax were the best football team on earth. They had the best players, they played the best football, and they won the most trophies. From 1971 to 1973, the Dutchmen won 3 consecutive European Cups, becoming the first team since Real Madrid in the 1950s to win the competition for 3 years in a row. CSKA Sofia were considered one of Eastern Europe's strongest outfits, and they once reached the European Cup semi-finals in the 1960s, but few felt that they could be a match for Ajax in 1973. Indeed, the two teams had met at the exact same stage in the second round exactly 12 months earlier, in which Ajax had thrashed CSKA 6-1 across 2 legs en route to that 3rd European title. Ajax had one rather significant departure in the summer of 1973, namely Johan Cruyff, but this was still an inspired team featuring the likes of Piet Keizer, Ruud Krol and Johan Neeskens. Ajax won the first leg 1-0 in Amsterdam, but in the second leg in Sofia, they came up against a resilient CSKA backline. The Bulgarians stood strong, with Dimitar Marshalev taking the game to extra time, where they scored again to secure a historic win. The result brought an end to Ajax's European dominance, with the club going 15 years before their next European triumph. Meanwhile, CSKA fell to Bayern Munich in the next round. Of course, I recently made a superb video about CSKA Sofia and the fight between two clubs for the former CSKA Sofia's identity, which, if you haven't already watched, and I know that most of you haven't, you can do so now. I'll stick up a link to it at the end screen, should you be interested. That is it for today's video. As is so often the case, there could be hundreds of honourable mentions, so I'll just mention a couple that came particularly close to featuring, namely Newcastle United's 3-2 win against Barcelona in the late 1990s, and Monaco defeating Real Madrid 3-1, having lost their first leg 4-2, in order to progress to the semi-finals in 2004. Thank you all for watching, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and obviously do make sure that you're subscribed to HITC Sevens and have notifications turned on.